Joined in this segment by yet another candidate for your consideration, Republican John Dennis in San Francisco, challenging Nancy Pelosi. Born in Jersey City, the son of a longshoreman and a city hall clerk. Graduate of Fordham University with a degree in business administration, he founded a number of businesses, including Foundation Real Estate, a San Francisco-based investment company. He's on the board of the Republican Liberty Caucus in California and the San Francisco alternate San Francisco Republican Central Committee. This looks like his first run for office. Let's meet John Dennis. John, welcome to the program.
Roger, thanks for having me. It's my pleasure.
This is your first run for office?
Yeah, I decided to aim low for my first run.
Well, yeah, but many people around the country applauding that anyone would stand up, because the last time we checked in with this district, Ms. Pelosi was not in any danger except from the left when Cindy Sheehan ran against her because she wasn't tough enough about getting out of Iraq.
Yeah. Well, we have been, we've let her get off the hook in terms of running elections up here. She has never had to run a real campaign, and we're going to try and change that this time around.
Tell me the strategy. What are you going to do?
I'm going to build a real precinct operation, a real door-to-door, phone call-by-phone call campaign. And, Roger, when we first started, I have to admit that my objectives and my goals were a little less modest than a victory in the conventional sense. But as the team started building relationships with people and started calling Democrats and independents and people all across the political spectrum, we started to realize there are a lot of votes to win out there. So back in December, it seemed like all within 1 week, we all started talking about it within the campaign that maybe we can do this, we can pull this off, and then Scott Brown happened, and then everything has changed since then. So.
Inspired you, didn't it?
It did. I mean, I started talking about it. I was on a Fox News show with Judge Napolitano back in November, and I talked a little bit about it then. But since that time, we've been straightforward. We have a formula of what it's going to take to defeat Nancy Pelosi, and we're going to try and execute it.
What are the issues, John, in that district that would shock? I mean, it would shock the world if she's defeated. But you think there's a possibility of doing that, and there must be some shift going on there.
Yeah, I think the issues are the same here as they are everywhere else. I mean, I think people are deeply concerned about the amount of debt that's been put on our shoulders, on the shoulders of our children and grandchildren. I think people are concerned about jobs, just like they are everywhere else in the country. And I also think that people are sort of fed up with Nancy Pelosi, her use of class warfare to divide and conquer us, but at the same time live an elite lifestyle all at our expense. I think that kind of hypocrisy isn't playing well anywhere in this town.
Well, that's interesting, too. Are you walking precincts and talking to people?
Do it every day.
And what reaction do you get when you tell them you're a Republican? First of all, now, I was a Republican in San Francisco when I went to Hastings Law School.
Right.
And I voted for a Republican candidate, and I felt like I was one of about 5 people in my neighborhood, but I lived on the avenues out, and so I was just surrounded by nothing but Democrats. What do they say?
Well, they're responding to the message. Like, here's the thing. I never intended to run for office. I didn't build a resume to be a politician, and so I just talk out of the frustration that I had that drove me to do this in the first place. And people are just as anxious about the fact that if you add up the debt, the unfunded liabilities, the backstops to the banks, the backstops to the GSEs, each one of us is in debt to the tune of over $300,000 a head. And people were aware of that. They're aware of how that weighs down on the capital markets, how it weighs down and creates uncertainty in businesses so that they won't, create jobs. These things. I mean, I think there's an impression that people in San Francisco are in like another, from another planet or something. And there are differences, of course, but they're concerned with the same fundamental things that everyone is across the country.
Heartening to hear, because I believe that most people do believe it's another planet based on the stuff that gets in the news. Interesting, because I know Willie Brown, and I talked to Willie Brown, the former Speaker of the Assembly, former mayor of San Francisco, and now retired. And as he got retired, he got much more open about his thoughts about this. And he is much more conservative than he used to be on a whole bunch of issues.
Yeah, I think, well, what's that old saying? I think if you're, what is it about? You have to be liberal when you're young and conservative when you're old, or something like that?
Yeah, you don't have a head if you're not conservative when you're older.
Exactly, yeah. Well, I mean, I think, we're at a really important crossroads in American history. What are we going to do? Are we going to embrace, more statism, which got us into this trouble in the first place, or the the Voices for Free Market is going to stand up and fight the epic fight that we're going to have to in order to save the republic. That's what this is all about. There's nothing less at stake, and people like Nancy Pelosi. The company that she works for is called the federal government. She's the equivalent of the chief operating officer, and her job is to grow the top line, irrespective of the outcome for anybody else. That's what we're fighting against, and that's what our generation needs to stand up for.
How old are you, John?
I am 46.
John Dennis with us. He is a candidate for the Republican nomination to oppose Nancy Pelosi. We will hope Nancy Pelosi's successor. You've employed people. You've built businesses. If you were in Congress now, what would you advise needs to be done to get this economy going again?
Well, I want to give sort of a fantasy vision here for a second, because as bad as things are, as optimistic as I've ever been, based on the activism that we see around the nation, and I want people to have a vision of a direction that we need to go in, and I want everyone to imagine for a moment that tomorrow morning the holy trinity of Obama, Reid, and Pelosi are on TV, and they say, look, we've all agreed we're going to cut government spending by 50%. We're going to cut capital. We're going to abolish capital gains taxes, and we're going to cut income taxes by 1/3. How do you think the stock market would react that day?
Explode.
Yeah. What do you think job prospects would be like if we did that?
That people would start hiring the next day.
Yeah. The fantasy that we are that they're selling out of D.C. that somehow the government as the god of our lives, that somehow that we send them money and they multiply the loaves and the fishes, has never worked anywhere in history. It never will. It's the private economy that's sustainable, that can create the productivity and the savings that create wealth. The federal government will never be able to do that, and as soon as we get off of that drug is as soon as the recovery will start. And I think that if we focus on that vision and only vote people in office who will actually work towards that vision, that we can actually turn this thing around.
In San Francisco, my appreciation of it is that it is dominated by people who do believe government is the answer and not the problem. What are you? Again, I'm wondering, as you knock on doors, what you're running into there on these fiscal issues now.
Yeah, and this is unscientific, but this is I keep track myself and just sort of give a general grade to each person we talk to. We find that between 1 out of 5, 1 out of 4 Democrats will absolutely not vote for Nancy Pelosi under any circumstances.
Really?
We're finding the overwhelming majority, a much higher majority than Scott Brown got in Massachusetts, of independents will absolutely not vote for Nancy Pelosi. And we have, I think, because of this campaign, because I think our campaign has touched a nerve around the country. Our website is one of the most followed campaign websites in America. I think at the rate that we're growing in the next week or so, we'll be the #1 campaign website in America. So we have a very motivated, albeit smaller Republican base. And if all of those three groups, the disaffected Democrats, the disaffected independents, and a motivated Republican base get out and vote, we're going to beat Nancy Pelosi.
John Dennis with us. Where do we find you on that website?
It's JohnDennis2010.com.
John Dennis, 2 N's, JohnDennis2010.com. Now, John, finally, money is obviously always an important issue here, and Nancy Pelosi will have as much as she wants, obviously. What's your counter to that? Are you putting in your own money? You're raising money? What are you doing?
Well, we were very, I talk about modest, we were very slow in getting our fundraising together, but it has exploded since January 1st. We already have reached our quarterly goal. We expect to treble or quadruple that goal. And as I said, I think because the site is catching on, we're gonna have plenty of money to defeat Nancy Pelosi. I think what we're raising right now in a quarter is what we'll raise in a month in the general election. And the truth of the matter is that I want to run an under-the-radar campaign for as long as I can, so that sometime in September, Nancy Pelosi wakes up and she realizes that she's in a battle. And she reacts, hopefully, too little, too late.
Well, she'll react, and I'm afraid you have to be ready for the worst smears you've ever heard.
I'm the son of a longshoreman from a housing project in Jersey City.
I was reading that in your bio. I said, okay, this guy's ready. John Dennis, are you going to try to challenge her to debate? I know you're going to wait like that until summer to really get into this, but you're going to drag a wing like it's broken for a while. But I understand that. But sooner or later, you're going to try to confront her.
Sure, why not? I mean, I think a debate is the last thing that she'd ever want with anybody. So sure, when the time comes, we'll put the pressure on, and we'll see what she's made of.
John Dennis, thanks for being with us. We'll keep in touch with you. JohnDennis2010.com. Appreciate it. Thanks for being with us.